So let's dive into one of the greatest operas ever written, Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. And, we're not just here to admire the beautiful music. We're actually here to solve a mystery, a kind of secret message about revolution that Mozart might have hidden in plain sight, right there in the score. Okay, so here's the central puzzle for us. Years after Figaro was already a huge success, Mozart goes back and completely rewrites a super important song for his leading lady. I mean, that's a strange thing to do, right? It's kind of like an author rewriting the last chapter of a bestseller after it's already on the shelves. So the big question is, why? And the answer? Well, it's going to take us from the fancy opera houses of Vienna all the way to the streets of revolutionary Paris. All right, let's set the scene for this whole mystery. Picture this. It's 18th century Vienna. The entire music world is just buzzing about this brilliant new opera from a composer who is at the absolute top of his game. So, when Figaro premiered, it was an instant smash hit. Now get this, it was based on a French play that was considered so politically scandalous, so critical of the rich and powerful, that it was actually banned in several cities. But somehow Mozart and his writer, Lorenzo da Ponte, they managed to sneak it past the censors. And audiences, they went wild for it. Absolutely loved it. So the opera is already a done deal. It's a beloved masterpiece. But then, for a revival in 1789, Mozart does something really unusual. He takes one of the most beautiful songs in the whole show, sung by the clever maid Susanna, and just swaps it out for a completely new piece of music. And we're not talking about a little tweak here. This was a total overhaul. But the really crucial clue here, it's all about the timing. See, that rewrite happened in 1789. And that wasn't just any old year. It's a date that should probably ring a bell for you if you remember your history class. It's the year the French Revolution kicked off. So, is that just a coincidence? Or was Mozart maybe tapping into that revolutionary spirit that was sweeping across Europe? Okay, to really get why this change is so important, we first have to understand the character at the very heart of it all, Susanna. And let me tell you, she is not your typical opera heroine. For her time, she was basically a revolutionary figure all by herself. So this is Susanna. Officially, she's the Countess's maid, but really, she is the sharpest person in the entire story. The whole plot is driven by her brain, by her wit. She's the one navigating all the schemes of her boss, the cheating count, and she always comes out on top. Honestly, she is the true hero of this opera. Now, a character like Susanna didn't just come out of nowhere. She comes from a long theatrical tradition called commedia dell'arte. And the whole idea behind it was that servants could be, and let's be real, often were, way smarter, funnier, and more capable than their wealthy masters. It was a super popular way to kind of poke fun at the whole class system. And Mozart, he leaned into it hard. And this was totally Mozart's thing. As the scholar Anna Sharon points out, he was always writing these powerful, independent female characters. Susanna was no accident. She was part of this deliberate effort by Mozart to put women on stage who were equals or, hey, even superiors to the men around them, no matter what their social class was. All right, so we've got our revolutionary maid. Now let's get to the core evidence in this case, the two different songs Mozart wrote for her big climactic moment in the final act. So this chart really lays out the key differences. The original song, De Viene, was written for a singer who was a great actress, so the music is pretty simple, very gentle. But the rewrite, Al Desio, that was for a different singer, one known for her incredible vocal power, and boy is it a showcase. It's super complex, virtuosic, and just brimming with fiery passion. It gives you a completely different feeling for the exact same moment in the story. And look at this, it just illustrates the change perfectly. You don't even have to know how to read music to see what's going on here. On the left, that's the original. See how graceful and pretty straightforward that melody is? And then on the right, wow. The rewrite is just this cascade of notes. It's fast, it's complicated, and it demands some serious skill from the singer. It's a total night and day difference, musically. The lyrics tell the same story, too. The original song is this sweet, romantic serenade, right? It's painting a picture of a quiet garden, murmuring rivers, laughing flowers. But the rewrite, whoa. It is a raw declaration of passion. I can no longer resist the passion burning in my heart. Talk about a tonal shift. It goes from gentle romance to just this unstoppable fire. So, what's with this super dramatic change? Well, the first big clue comes when we connect this new, complicated music to what's actually happening in the plot. And this is where the mystery really starts to unravel. Okay, here is the absolute key point. This new song, musically speaking, does not sound like it was written for a maid. See, in the very rigid world of 18th century opera, all the flashy, complex songs were saved for the noble characters. The kings, the queens, the countesses. The servants got the simple, folksy tunes. Mozart knew these rules, and here he was breaking them on purpose. And here's why it sounds so aristocratic. First off, Mozart built the new song using the exact same musical structure that he used for the Countess's own big solo earlier in the opera. Second, all those vocal fireworks, that was musical shorthand for "I'm a noble." And here's the kicker, the most important part. In this very scene, Susanna is literally disguised as the Countess, wearing her clothes to trick the Count. So suddenly, the music perfectly matches the disguise. It's genius. With this rewrite, Mozart wasn't just having Susanna look like a countess. He was making her sound like one, too. He was basically using the music itself to suggest that the difference between a maid and a noblewoman wasn't some God-given thing. It was just a performance, something you could put on like a costume. And with that, the lines between the classes are starting to get very, very blurry. And this brings us to the grand finale. By blurring those class lines inside his opera, Mozart was mirroring a much bigger and frankly much more dangerous idea that was catching on in the world right outside the theater doors. Just remember that date, 1789. It's the one question that makes all the pieces just click into place. What was happening in 1789? And here it is, the incredible connection. While Mozart is in Vienna giving his clever maid the musical language of a noblewoman, revolutionaries over in Paris are storming the Bastille, literally tearing down the symbols of aristocracy. You got two different worlds colliding. In Vienna, on the stage, and in Paris, on the streets, the exact same radical idea is exploding, that where you're born doesn't define who you are. And just like that, the mystery is solved. That rewrite wasn't just a simple musical choice to accommodate a new singer. No way. It was a deeply political statement. Mozart was encoding the spirit of the revolution right into the notes. He was arguing through music that the talent, the passion, the intelligence of a servant like Susanna made her the absolute equal of any noble. This was an aria for a revolution. And that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Think about it. The original play was already considered dangerous back in 1784. Mozart's opera blasted those ideas out to a huge audience in 1786, and then his 1789 rewrite made the message crystal clear at the exact moment the revolution was catching fire. So it really makes you wonder, right? How often does art just reflect history, and how often does it actually help predict it?